Senator Klobuchar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome back, Mr. Rosenstein.
Thank you, Senator.
I have made very clear that I think that it is absurd to be having this hearing. I know we're going to have a hearing, which I appreciate, on criminal justice reform in a few weeks after the murder of George Floyd in my state. But I think we could also be doing so many other things on the pandemic, on the effect that the pandemic has had on immigration policy. But we are here today. I thought that was absurd, but then I heard Senator Cruz. And I have to say, to compare Richard Nixon to Barack Obama, Richard Nixon, who left the White House in disgrace, to compare him with President Obama, who left the White House with grace and with dignity, something we miss very much, especially this week, when we saw the President of the United States using the Bible as a prop in front of a church in Washington, D.C., after the Justice Department tear-gassed peaceful protesters in order to set the stage for that press conference. No, I would like the record to reflect that this comparison is not only wrong today between Richard Nixon and Barack Obama, it will never stand the test of time. So let me start out with this, Mr. Rosenstein. You appointed Special Counsel Robert Mueller to oversee the FBI's counterintelligence investigation to ensure that it was conducted independently in May of 2017. The Special Counsel found that Russian interference in our election was sweeping and systematic, and that the investigation, as you know, ultimately resulted in 34 indictments of individuals and the convictions of 6 of President Trump's associates and advisors on federal charges. Last May, you said that there was, quote, overwhelming evidence that Russian operatives hacked American computers and defrauded American citizens, end quote, as, quote, part of a comprehensive Russian strategy to influence elections, promote social discord, and undermine America, end quote. Do you still agree with that statement?
Yes, I do.
Are you aware of any facts that call into question the finding in the Special Counsel's report that the Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion, or that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from a Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome? Are there any facts that
you're quoting from the report, Senator? I certainly believe that Director Mueller's report accurately reflects his conclusions.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't know what's in the mind of the Russians. We can only evaluate the evidence that we have, and that's what the intelligence suggests.
Okay. Are you aware of any facts that call into question the assessment of FBI Director Wray, which is, by the way, backed up by many, many Trump intelligence officials, that Russia's interference in our elections is ongoing, that its interference in the 2018 midterms, in Christopher Wray's words, were a dress rehearsal for the 2020 elections? Are you aware of anything that would lead you to think that Russian interference in our elections going forward has stopped?
I am not aware of anything that would suggest it stopped, and while I was in office, Senator, I actually spent a fair amount of time working with Director Wray and other officials to try to combat foreign interference.
Okay, and given the threat to our democracy posed by foreign election interference, while we, by the way, have the threat of voter suppression due to this pandemic and other laws, it is critical that we remain focused on the facts. The Inspector General's report found on page 17 that the investigation, the Crossfire hurricane investigation, was open to determine whether people associated with the Trump campaign were coordinating with the Russian government. Do you disagree with that?
That is my understanding, Senator.
And so we are clear, coordinating with a foreign power as part of a political campaign, especially a foreign adversary like Russia, would pose a threat to national security. Is that correct?
It would if it were true, yes.
Okay. And do you agree that interference in our elections by foreign governments constitutes a national security threat?
Yes.
Okay. So that is why I would like to look forward. And when you look forward, what do you see in front of us? You see this ongoing threat to our democracy, which is why I have advocated so strongly, along with Senator Langford, Senator Graham, so many, for backup paper ballots in our election. It is part of the reason why I think that the mail-in ballots, in addition to protecting the health and safety of voters, would protect us from foreign interference, and that's why you have Republican-dominated states like Utah have used these mail-in ballots. It would be helpful in that way. And one other policy idea here is that we need to do as we continue to see ongoing attempts by foreign governments to influence our elections on social media. Senator Graham and I and Senator Warren have put forward the Honest Ads Act. Are you familiar with that bill?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, that is a bill that would require the same disclosure rules and disclaimer rules for political ads that we have for ads that we see on TV. It would simply require that when someone gets an ad for a political campaign or an issue ad that's paid for and meets the federal standards that they would in other forums, that you have to have a disclosure on them and that you have to make a public record of this ad. And I just want to, again, remind my colleagues of this bill, because after years, Senator McCain first did this bill with me. It's still sitting dormant. And I think that when you look at what the Senate Intelligence Committee just recommended, was that we should bring our laws into the 21st century to ensure that voters are able to know who is paying to influence our political system. At the very least, when we know we also have unpaid influence, do you think it would be helpful to know who is paying to influence our political system?
Senator, I'm very reluctant to express a view about your legislation on the spur of the moment, but I'll be happy to take a look at it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.